The Bundesliga just became the biggest sports league in the world to partner with a YouTuber for official match coverage alongside their traditional broadcast partner. Hat tip here to Paola Marinone's post on LinkedIn. If you're doing anything on YouTube and you're not following her, you probably should be. All right, so the Bundesliga has agreed to stream matches with Mark Goldbridge's The United Stand, a YouTube channel with around 2.1 million subscribers, and working with the BBC, who still has rights, not replacing them. They'll be working alongside. This isn't a random experiment. This is the fourth biggest football league on the planet, admitting that creators are essential to the future of sports. Every other league, it seems, for every other league, if they're pretending this isn't happening, they're about to get left behind. All right, so, I found this from Paola Marinone. She used to run a lot of stuff at YouTube in Europe. She now runs Buzz My Videos. It's a fantastic product, and she has been banging this drum for years. But the Bundesliga isn't abandoning a traditional broadcast partner. BBC still has their rights. They're doing something smarter. They're adding creator partnerships to reach new audiences that traditional broadcast may miss. They're not alone. Saudi Pro League, same playbook, building audience and creators who already have millions of followers. Even in smaller leagues are catching on, and creators are becoming the bridge into a new audience. This is certainly one that should wake everyone up. We need to talk about the beautiful irony here that, the Bundesliga has chosen The United Stand, Mark Goldbridge's channel, and that this year they're going to give Manchester United fans their only reliable access to European football, aside from driving across to the Etihad. But think about it. United fans can now watch the Bundesliga, where Jadon Sancho is actually playing well at Dortmund, where Champions League football exists every year, and where their former players go to remember what trophies look like. The Stand is literally becoming the only place that United fans can watch successful football. They're getting Champions League content, just not their own, which has been downgraded by Ineos. Goldbridge is now basically running a therapy channel. Can't watch United. Well, hey, here's Bayern destroying somebody 5-0. Remember when we used to do this? As a City fan, I fully support Manchester United fans having access to quality football content. It's a public service and it keeps them off of the streets. But seriously, the World Surf League proved this creator model works. The WSL used this exact same formula and pulled 10.2 million viewers from the Rip Curl finals. We helped them implement this strategy when I was head of industry at TikTok. Surfing pulled in 10.2 million viewers. How? They had a regular creator schedule. They were live streaming on a regular basis, and they were allowing their fans access to the stars of the sport. They went where their audience was actually consuming content, and they seized upon cultural moments like the Olympics and 100-foot wave to amplify what they were doing. So they didn't abandon TV. They simply added to the mix to help drive it. Now, there's a current example I would like to call out that's a personal pet peeve of mine, how not to do this. The Women's Rugby World Cup is starting this week. And they're not trying very hard to do things right. They're seemingly doing everything wrong. Lonamar, one player, has 4.5 million followers on TikTok, 4.5 million followers on TikTok. And how many does USA Rugby have? 137,000. She has 33 times more reach than the entire organization. Yet they're not tagging her in posts on a routine basis. If you look at the top women's rugby women, let's look at the top women's rugby players across social media. Alona Mar, way out in front, 4.5 million on TikTok, 3.1 on Instagram. Portia Woodman-Wycliffe, 340,000 on Instagram. Ruby Tui, 310,000 on Instagram. A lot of the other players are in the 100 to 200,000 range. Billions of engaged accounts. The national team accounts have a fraction of that audience. The official organization, fraction of that audience. The players have far more reach, and most niche sports growth is driven out of player affinity, not team affinity. Soccer has finally learned that in the U.S., and we have seen the growth of the sport driven off of the back of big names coming to the U.S. and driving that growth. Rugby could learn a lot here. The broadcast partners also. Makes a lot of sense to tag the athletes and the teams that you're covering in your social posts. Best practices from YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all ask for this sort of collaboration because it helps better signal their algorithms and drive that content out to a wider audience. It's just actually getting social teams to implement the best practice that's falling behind here. The players end up in these situations having far more reach in the organization. and they don't even usually get tagged by the leagues and the organizations. They're effectively refusing to use their largest marketing assets. It's absolutely crazy. And looking across the top athlete creators, they make amazing content. It is highly engaging, it's authentic, and it's native. And the best thing you could do is to offer them your megaphone, right? If you're the broadcast network, whether you are the World Rugby or the Rugby World Cup accounts, you should be tagging these athletes and effectively maximizing the reach for everyone involved. That rising tide lifts all boats is absolutely true in social media, and effective use here would drive a lot more engagement and attention because their posts are driving hundreds of thousands of views every day. Now, this has been copied a few times looking at sports that have done it here in the US. The NFL opened up media rights to creators around the Super Bowl and saw huge results from that. Now, when you look at the US market, there is a number of sports that are could really see some huge growth here. Rugby, top of the list. Engagement across the U.S. is growing massively. We have some of the brightest star in women's rugby here, and who's getting ready to go and absolutely smash the world on a world stage. Additionally, the Gaelic sports, GAA, hurling, Gaelic football. There are 44 million Irish Americans who would love to have access to that. Additionally, tying in the merchandising and enabling new markets for these niche sports will change the economies of scale greatly here. If you're able to tie in all of your GAA merchandise with the videos that you're putting out on social media and work with creators in new countries, you'll see a huge amount of growth, and you'll capitalize on the fact that the rise in Irish language and Irish sports is seeing a natural lift on the back of Kneecap and their musical journey, controversies, a wide variety of things that they've been facing. So in the US, Gaelic sports, huge amount here. Strongman and Celtic events would also do very well. Lacrosse is literally growing 15% year over year. Their professional leagues are buried on ESPN. It makes absolutely no sense. These should be attached to creators who are live streaming and doing watch-alongs and presenting the sport to a much wider audience. All of these organizations would do well to look at how orgs like Overtime have operated and grown in the US. They've really done an excellent job of maximizing their presence on social media to drive both commercial opportunity and brand growth. But every single one of these sports have the ability to build massive audiences right now using this Bundesliga playbook, finding creators plus traditional coverage instead of it. It is absolutely fantastic that Mark and his channel will be able to bring the Bundesliga to a much wider audience. All jokes aside, they do a wonderful job on that YouTube channel, and he will do an excellent job of presenting Bundesliga football. So the playbook that I think brands should be using and that, both leagues and teams should really get behind. The template's this. Step one, you need to audit your athletes. Who has the followers? Start treating them as media partners and collaboration partners. Start to learn the creators in your space who are, go find your United stand. Which creators are already talking about your sport? Who can you partner with directly to increase that and help amplify their voice as well? Create the network. You got to build your creator network in alongside traditional coverage, multiple touch points, multiple audiences. Number 4, give them freedom. If you're lucky enough to work with somebody like Ilana Mar, she is an expert creator. Let her do things that are authentic and play to her audience, and you will see much greater return than you will if the brand team writes everything down that must be said. Step 5, track everything. YouTube analytics, add your UTM parameters across all of your social posts. Additionally, ensure that you have your social commerce set up and tagged effectively, your Google shopping on YouTube. And then package your total audience, right? When you have this, you're able to then go out to sponsors with a combined reach of digital plus social. This isn't theory at all. Bundesliga is doing it now with the BBC in the United States. ESL did it to get 10 million viewers and then get immediately on ESPN. F1 used YouTube to supplement their traditional coverage in the US as they were exploiting with Netflix as well. These multi-channel approaches are what is absolutely key to growing sports and growing audience. Your TV, your audience isn't just watching linear TV anymore. They're not only on social either. They're kind of everywhere. YouTube's growing on YouTube usage on television sets is outpacing broadcast and cable. You know, you're seeing live streams on Instagram and TikTok and all of these. And then, you know, sometimes they're watching traditional TV as well, but they may be multi-screen, you know, having it open on an iPad or an iPhone and interacting in another way. So overall, YouTube has 2.7 billion users. Traditional sports, you know, still measured in the hundreds of millions, right? So smart leagues understand there's massive overlap here. The Bundesliga gets it. BBC for traditional viewers and activating new audiences with YouTube, especially in a small and scalable way that they can measure and track the impact of on a single channel. So I'm pretty sure that you know, this plan is so simple that I don't even think the Ineos team would make United cut it. All right, sorry, last United joke, I promise. But before somebody says creators don't generate revenue, kind of ridiculous. You know, if I can stop you right there, F1's YouTube strategy complemented their broadcast deals and drove a huge amount of U.S. growth. It was their primary SEO destination for most of their U.S. growth. UFC and WWE have used YouTube to massively expand their broadcast rights and the value of their broadcast rights because they have the engagement data behind it. They actually just both ended pay-per-view based on that fact. The Premier League's YouTube presence enhances their broadcast value. It doesn't replace it. I would say that they're behind where the Bundesliga is in terms of engaging, and that they could do a much better job in the US of creator engagement. Here, I think GAA and O'Neill's, you know, are missing a massive opportunity, not making the millions of views on GAA content in the US that are largely going without any sort of interaction or benefit for the GAA or the merchandise companies behind them or the clubs as well, is a huge miss. And I think it could drive an absolute rack ton of engagement there. And I think here, you know, when I look at, you know, ice hockey really could do a huge amount of international development and interest in the NHL with younger demographics if they were to kind of grow that out. You know, rugby makes it really easy, you know, very easy to kind of come in and find rugby audiences in the US. MLR is starting to grow, and actually, you know, tag Lonamar if you're posting about her. And yes, I do love the fact that United fans now have to go to YouTube in order to watch winning football, or they can, you know, again, just come over the Etihad. But that's actually the point. Creators are giving these audiences what they want, the freedom to consume content and coverage where they want it, and kind of alongside that traditional broadcast coverage, not in place of it. It's not abandoning broadcast. You know, live sports will still remain to be one of the, you know, most appointment viewing things that we have, you know, kind of pieces of most appointment driven content that we have. And so audiences will engage there. But you need to flesh out your media mix around these to both activate those audiences, right? There's tons of additional noise in the marketplace. And if they're not watching TV, they're probably looking at their phone. And if you're not engaging them there's a high likelihood that you will be missing out on that audience as they grow. So, you know, the Bundesliga here, working with the BBC, has a bit of a blueprint. You know, they're scaling this as a test. You know, looking at other leagues, a DRL, really drone racing league, embraced this very, very well to drive an immense amount of growth on both TikTok and Instagram. The same you can see with NFL clubs that really put out amazing content as well. And the amount of growth that they've seen there, specifically in small market teams. Baltimore Ravens, off the top of my head, have probably the best social media out there with, you know, the LA Chargers are up there as well. Your audience has already chosen the platform, right? They've chosen YouTube and television. They've chosen creators and broadcasters, and they've chosen athletes with personality and the traditional coverage. So in reality, for sports, and, you know, for teams and leagues, especially those looking to grow into new markets or expand that audience on a global stage, are you willing to kind of go where your audience is and embrace a hybrid model? Or are you going to kind of continue pretending that we're stuck in the 1990s and that's how broadcast rights deals work? So I'll be interested to see kind of how the viewership goes. With the United Stand, they do very, very good coverage, but no, the United Stand does excellent coverage. Wonderful YouTube channel. I'll be interested to see how the engagement on that channel for Bundesliga matches up versus the BBC games over the course of the season. Again, if you're not following Paola Marinone, Buzzway videos, you need to go do that right now. You should also probably sign up for their product. I'll be doing some reviews of it here in the coming weeks, but it is the best YouTube library management tool on the market right now. And that is purely my opinion. They no influence there at all. Appreciate any likes, comments. Let me know what you